Yeah, we've got a lot to get through this afternoon, Andrew. Big show this Thursday. Also, the Prime Minister trying again to put some markers out there in terms of defence and security and trying to have a point of difference here. But every time Labor tries to play the dead bat.
The Prime Minister really putting the stake into the ground on this being a khaki election this morning, announcing what he termed the biggest boost to the Defence Force in peacetime Australia has ever seen.
The biggest increase in the size of our Defence Forces in peacetime in Australian history. This is a significant vote of confidence in our Defence Forces, but it's a significant recognition by our government, which has always been clear-eyed about the threats and the environment that we face as a country, as a liberal democracy in the Indo-Pacific. Today I'm announcing that we will boost our Defence Forces by some 18,500, which will take our Defence Forces to 80,000 in number.
Well, between 2024 and 2040, the government promises to increase the military by at least 18,500 soldiers, sailors and aviators. The expansion from 60,000 personnel is significantly back-ended here because you can't make this sort of adjustment overnight, this big increase, the government argues. Morrison questioned on how long this will take to build up.
Is that too little too late?
Well, you must have missed the point I was making before. We've increased investment in our Defence Forces by $55 billion. I'm answering your question. $55 billion of increased investment in our Defence Forces means we are a more ready force now than we previously would have been.
Well, he didn't like that question, but the PM has some fertile ground on which to attack Labor here, with the former Labor government having slashed the defence budget in office. Anthony Albanese got criticised by John Howard today for mentioning him in his AFR summit speech yesterday. Scott Morrison invoked Bob Hawke here.
You need to operate as Prime Minister Hawke understood off both coasts. Plenty of people can support what we've done in AUKUS, but only this government would have initiated it.
So the PM's pitch also being that $55 billion would not have been spent on defence had the coalition government stuck with Labor's defence budget after being elected in 2013. He also points out while Labor support the AUKUS defence agreement, Scott Morrison himself actually came up with it.
$55 billion would not have been spent on our Defence Forces and our capability if we'd kept the settings as we inherited them.
And Peter Dutton, the Defence Minister, pushed the discussion into Labor's inability to stop asylum seekers in office.
The Labor Party lost control of our borders. And if you can't protect your borders and if you can't stare down people smugglers, how on earth can you pretend that you're the same as this government, that not only can you deal with making sure that we continue to stop the people smugglers, but that you can stop adversaries and those that would seek to do harm to our country in the coming decades?
And after the announcement earlier in the week by Scott Morrison that he would station a nuclear submarine base at either Brisbane, Port Kembla or Newcastle, both the Prime Minister and Defence Minister seized on these comments on afternoon agenda by the opposition's Home Affairs spokeswoman Kristina Keneally Tuesday.
Andrew, let's be clear about what happened yesterday. We had an announcement that there'll be an announcement sometime in 2023. And let's also be clear what's going on here. First of all, absolute bipartisan support for the AUKUS agreement. Not a problem with that. What the problem Labor has with the government's current approach is that the Prime Minister and the Defence Minister are not on the same page. They can't even agree when we're going to have an agreement about the submarines.
Now, I have noticed, to be fair, that there have been a number of Labor voices that haven't been very supportive of this initiative. The same has been true down in the Illawarra. And the Shadow Minister for Home Affairs, Senator Keneally, has not been supportive of this. So I'm not quite sure where this view comes about that there's some sort of equivalence between the government and the Labor Party when it comes to defence.
When you've got Kevin Rudd and you've got Kristina Keneally and others out there that are trying to undermine what we're trying to do on the submarine program, I think it needs to be called out. And I mean, the Premier here in Queensland has a very strange position compared to, say, the Premier of New South Wales. The Premier of New South Wales, on the same available information, is committing to what he sees as an opportunity for New South Wales of thousands of jobs.
Now, the government announcement was timed on the very day Anthony Albanese was addressing the Lowy Institute, attempting to assure Australia that Labor will be equally tough on defence and national security. He pointed to the record of Labor wartime Prime Minister John Curtin. He suggested that our vessels be better armed now to plug a gap in defence capability.
We'll consider whether Tomahawk missiles can be fitted to the Collins-class submarines, something that's been suggested by defence experts as a practical way of making a difference right now in the next few years. We will review progress of the frigates project and explore whether our naval power could be bolstered through upgraded weapons on the Arafura-class offshore patrol vessels or through additional Hobart-class air warfare destroyers.
Albanese promising a Defence Force posture review if elected. He is good at announcing reviews, or he's becoming good at that. And he was saying here, why is the government making a defence announcement on the day I'm having this national security address, pointing to perhaps deliberate timing there?
Why is an announcement being made today about defence issues? I think we know the answer. You know, we actually need to treat national security issues seriously and to be aiming at outcomes. And that will be what we will do